And stop the share. And then I will turn it over to UUCC member Nikki Lee. She's going to be the host for this conversation, and you can take it away, Nikki.
Good evening. Welcome tonight. As many of you know, I'm a member of the congregation here, and I'm very active in the climate community, especially with the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. And that's who we're having tonight to talk to us about building climate resilience. So with us tonight is Jenny Doezema. And at the heart of Jenny's 25-year career is a fundamental driving question. What motivates people to protect the environment? Born and raised in Kalamazoo's historically Black North Side neighborhood, Jenny has spent her life strengthening the bond between people and nature. Her work spans education, youth leadership, and environmental advocacy, teaching in Kalamazoo public schools, designing environmental curricula, and leading successful youth service learning programs with Kalamazoo College and Michigan Earth Corps. She also directed an educational farm at Pretty Lake Adventure Camp, facilitated leadership development at the Adventure Center, and most recently served as the Vice President of Learning and Education at the Kalamazoo Nature Center, overseeing 12 major education programs. Looking at Jenny, you wouldn't know she's 100 years old. Now, as Executive Director of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, Jenny brings together her passion for environmental education, community investment, and climate justice. A founding member of the coalition, she helped establish Kalamazoo County's first sustainability planning position focused on developing a county-wide climate action plan. She then worked alongside the county to secure an $18.9 million EPA Community Change Grant in 2024, funding the Holistic Healthy Homes Project, an initiative that integrates housing, workforce development, and emergency preparedness to reduce greenhouse emissions and build community climate resilience. Leading a network of dedicated staff and volunteers, Jenny is committed to building a just, sustainable future in Kalamazoo for her community, her children, and her granddaughters, and for generations to come. Tonight, we're going to be talking about building climate resilience. How do we prepare for the storms ahead, both literal and figurative? What does real resilience look like in our communities? And so I introduce you, Jenny.
Thank you, Nikki. So that's a lot of words about things that I've done, and I often don't like listening to words about myself, but I had a lot of fun doing all those jobs. So again, Jenny Doezema from the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. Thank you for inviting me here to share with you today, and thanks, Nikki, for that introduction. I get to work with Nikki twice a month at least on a regular basis for the last 7 years as part of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, which is a pleasure. The coalition is our mission is to build collective action to achieve immediate reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and adoption of renewable energy through a just transition in economic, social, environmental, and racial justice. That mission was written and created through a lot of thought and heart sharing by a committed group of folks who have been working together for 7 years on a volunteer basis. For all of that 7 years, the coalition has been volunteer run. So I am the first paid staff of the coalition, and I just started doing this work as a paid staff in January, but I've been involved since the founding. That piece of all the folks who have been committed and meeting together for all of that time is really important to me. So that's a part of the collective action. And then we also, one of the ways that we do that is by building a network around the community of other individuals, religious institutions like the UUC, um, schools, education institutions, other nonprofits and businesses that are interested in learning about or already doing work that lifts up climate resilience in our community. We're focused on the Kalamazoo community as the place that we have the most power and influence to do something. But we also hope that other people are listening and learning from what we do, and we are listening and learning from what other folks are doing outside of Kalamazoo to do the very best we can. So collective action, rapid reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and adoption of renewable energy through a just transition. Now, for the last 7 years, that small group of folks has been focused on education through a education series that Nikki helps run, called Fridays for Future, that happens every other Friday. Second and fourth Friday, thank you. The second and fourth Friday at noon. You can tune in. You can find us on Facebook or on our website. And that series focuses on helping both lift up people who are doing good work in our community that contribute to climate resilience, but it also helps folks learn how to do more, what's happening and how to do more, or just understand the issues. Then you'll see us out in the community tabling. We have a sweet crew of folks that table at any event we're invited to table, and then some that we seek out on our own, where you can come and talk to us about what we're doing, what you're thinking about, what you're worried about, what you want to learn about, and what you think KC3 should be doing about climate change. KC3 is our shorthand for the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. So education, and this most recent period, so we've always done some action. The action started with supporting climate emergency declarations in local municipalities. So we pushed local municipalities to recognize that we are in a climate emergency. We were effective in that for 5 municipalities in Kalamazoo County. And also through supporting climate positive legislation of all kinds throughout those last 7 years. And then in the last couple years, recognize that there's a need to move faster and do more. And some of you may know Denise Keel, who is a local hero who does climate work, brought the idea to the coalition to try to seat a county position or a county-wide position, not necessarily seated at the county, although that's what eventually happened, that could look at climate planning and help at a county level bring together all the municipalities to think about climate resiliency or climate adaptation in Kalamazoo. And we achieved that goal. So, so we now have a county climate sustainability coordinator. Her name is Taylor Van Winkle. That position was created because of efforts of this KC3 team, the coordinating committee and myself. We got a grant from Eagle, and to fund a position for 3 years. The role of that position is to create a climate and justice plan for Kalamazoo that is countywide. And that led to the work that we're doing now, which is the community change grant. So the county and the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition co-applied for an US EPA federal grant and received that. You heard Nikki talk about what that was in her introduction, for $18.9 million to support a pretty major, pretty impactful, really important project in Kalamazoo that will build resilience and preparedness around climate for our community. We are now actively in the throes of getting that project up off of the ground and moving. And I'll stop there. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about the project and what you're planning on doing with it?
Yes. Yes. So that project, I wanted to give you a chance to ask me some questions instead of just doing a monologue.
I love Lily Tomlin's monologues.
Oh, Lily Tomlin. I haven't thought about her in a long time. Okay, so the project, so KC3 in the last couple years recognized in that same period of recognizing that we wanted to do more faster, started working together to really articulate a couple goals so that we could focus our energy better. One of those goals was to support energy efficiency upgrades for low income housing in our community. And the why behind that is if you live you don't have a whole lot of money, you own a home, you don't have the resources to make the upgrades to your home that somebody that does have more money can do. So you don't have as good of insulation, your windows decline, your roof might need work, your electrical might be old, your appliances are older. All of that culminates in a higher energy use, which means a bigger greenhouse gas footprint. And so the work of finding the funds to support low-income community homeowners who don't have the funds to do those upgrades themselves helps reduce the greenhouse gas footprint. But then also in our mission, you heard just transition, and there's a justice piece in there where we are really interested in making sure that when we are addressing climate change, we are thinking about who needs to be part of the voice in that picture and who needs to be taken care of and brought along the way. We know that as climate impacts increase, that the issues that we face, the disparities that already exist in our communities, the folks that already are marginalized, don't have their needs met, those are just going to grow. Proper, healthy, safe housing is one of those needs. So
Are you working with any groups to determine where the housing should be that you're looking at?
yes, thank you. So the first piece of the grant is will contribute $6 million to support 300 homes in getting energy efficiency upgrades in Kalamazoo. KC3 is not going to do that work ourselves. We partnered with organizations who are already doing that work in the community. There's 2 local housing orgs that have been working in Kalamazoo for a long time, already supporting energy efficiency upgrades. They also support pathways to homeownership, and we will work with them. They will receive the funds through the county, and we will collaborate with them to work with homeowners to get that work done.
And it also talks about a workforce. What's going to be happening there and how many people approximately will be trained?
Yeah, good stuff. So one of the things we learned in identifying the project was that there are existing programs that are already set to help do energy efficiency work in low-income homes or any homes, don't have the skilled workforce prepared to achieve the amount of work that we were looking at being done. So we added in the workforce training piece. So there's, I don't remember the total number for workforce training, but the total dollar amount, but we're working with 2 other organizations. So Northside Neighborhood has an existing workforce training program that does basic construction skills training and basic electrician skills training. And then there's another organization called Home Care Coordination that is just starting up that will do basic construction skills training. And those organizations will get part of the award to expand the number of people they're serving. So the grant will support 150 graduates from those training programs over the 3-year period. KC3 will work directly with those workforce training participants to help support them throughout the program. They're 8-week programs. They will receive stipends through that program, and then to help with job place post-graduation from those programs. Each piece of the workforce development training and the homeownership is focused in the 4 core neighborhoods in Kalamazoo. That's East Side, Douglas, North Side, and Edison neighborhoods. And workforce participants enrollment will be focused in those neighborhoods, and the homeowners, homes that will be served must be in those neighborhoods.
Is there an enrollment process for the homeowners?
There will be an enrollment process for the homeowners. So this project started in January, and we are, first step was hiring staff. We now have a full staff hired for this project. Check out our updates on the website for that. I can't announce their names yet, but if you attend these regularly, you met Stephanie Hoffman, I don't know, about a month ago or so. She is our program director. She'll be overseeing the entirety of this project. And then we've got 4 more staff that are hired to support it. Stephanie is working right now on the enrollment and prioritization process. We expect that we'll get a lot of desire. We already know that the $6 million sounds like a lot of money, but it's not enough. There's a deep need for investment in Kalamazoo's declining housing.
You're talking about $6 million for the homes, and it's an $18 million grant. What's the 13 or whatever difference is?
Yeah, so there's more to it. So a big chunk of that will go to workforce training. Both of those programs will, again, I don't want to misquote the number. I didn't write it down before I came here, but it's a couple million, a little over $2 million to the workforce development programs. And then the last piece of the grant supports what we're calling climate resiliency hubs. The climate resiliency hubs are an investment in the existing neighborhood association facilities. So those 4 neighborhoods that I named, West Douglas, Edison, East Side and North Side neighborhood association buildings will receive energy efficiency upgrades to their building envelope, the same thing that we're doing with houses. But they will also receive $200,000 to support solar panels and battery storage and generators that will turn them into emergency shelters in extreme weather. So that's where some of the climate preparedness comes in, upgrading homes and upgrading those neighborhood associations at the same time. So there'll be safe places close to home for people to go. And then those climate resiliency hubs will also serve as education hubs where folks can come and learn about what we're doing right now. They can also continue to learn about climate and environmental justice through those neighborhood centers throughout the project period of the grant and hopefully beyond.
So we also have a website, Kalamazoo Crisis.org.
www.kalamazoocrisis.org.
With grant money, is there going to be educational stuff on that website so that people can people who are not served by the grant but are wanting to upgrade their homes, is there going to be any kind of directory or any kind of information on that to help them also do that?
Yeah, so go to our website. Our website is this is a fast moving project. So our website right today, I was having conversations about upgrading our website to get more information out there for you. But that will be a hub where you can find all the information you want to know about this program. And then we also have a group of our committee members who are working with Hope for Creation on a resource that will be available to anyone and everyone that might be curious in doing energy efficiency upgrades on their own homes. It will include things like what's the best way to heat my house? If I need new windows, where do I look? It will also include things like who are the people in our community that are really supporting transition to renewables, a transition to electrification, or transition to the best energy efficiency we can get in our homes. That contractors that you can work with that will really help you answer those questions.
Now, part of what went out was, what does real resilience look like in our communities?
Yeah.
So upgrading the homes so people can continue to live there, building the hubs for emergencies. What other things? I mean, are the street work that's going on, the bike work, is that all part of resilience? Or
Yeah.
what else can we be doing towards that resilience?
Yeah, Now, thinking about resilience is a complicated word, y'all. It sounds like a bright, bright future if we're all really resilient. So, I, that's my favorite question, and I'm going to tell you. I think one of the reasons why I think climate work for me is the work to do right now is because it's our climate is our environment. So our climate, the environment that we live in impacts everything that we do. It impacts the way we eat, the way we live, the kind of house we want to live in, where we get our food, the way we travel. It will impact everything. It impacts who lives around us, where we can live. I could go on and on. It impacts the water we drink. It impacts the way that we feel the weather. And so when we think about building climate resilience in a community, we're really talking about thinking about the way we live together and all of the things that we need for surviving and thriving in a community together. The housing project and the workforce development project is one way that the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition is doing that work right now. It's an example of how we might continue to do our work in the future, where we take the thing that the community is needing. I was having this conversation earlier today with some of our new staff. So housing is a deep need in our community right now. Climate is related to housing. So if we're going to address housing, let's do it in a way that's thinking about the future that we're living into, the environment that we're experiencing right now and how it's changing, and making sure that we are building in the infrastructure that will help make it more sustainable. Sustainable is another crotchety word that we need to think about, and building the systems that will help us be prepared for a future that can withstand the changing climate that is here and coming.
So if we think of climate justice, earlier, just a small group of us were talking about farmers markets. Mm-hmm. What can be done to help the scattered communities, scattered sub-communities mm-hmm. that are going to who are most affected by climate, mm-hmm. to get food justice, to get clothing justice, to mm-hmm. be able to have transportation in their neighborhoods? What should we be looking at for that kind of thing also in the building mm-hmm. towards? Mm-hmm. Other grants maybe we should be
more money. There's always more money, but there's also more. There's also more a bigger network. So I think a bigger network is part of the question. But I think what you're asking is, how is justice part of resilience? And there are, again, I talked a little bit about this in the beginning. There's existing disparities. So Kalamazoo County is a community that has a large range of people that have a lot, have well beyond their needs met, and people that are unhoused, and everywhere in between. And there's large pockets of the population in every one of those levels of having their needs met. We need to be thinking about, when we think about justice looks like those levels disappearing, and our community looking at our human collective as every person that's part of that having access to food, having access to clean water, and having access to a healthy home. So farmers markets are part of the solution because they do a lot of things. They support our local farmers. Local farmers are struggling to make ends meet. Our rural communities are struggling to make ends meet. Supporting that economic system helps contribute to climate resilience. Access to food and the ability to grow food closer to home provides more opportunities for people to find food closer to them, but also at lower prices often. It also, as we look at, there's a lot of chaos happening in our country right now. It also, and chaos means insecurity, perhaps for all of us. And the more local systems we can build the more resilience we have right here in our community that we can depend on when the larger system is collapsing.
And one of the difficult questions right now is what is happening with our grant? That's a question I get, with what's happening with the government. So
Yes.
do we know what's happening, or are we still completely in limbo?
Okay, so complicated question. Complicated, not complicated. So our grant, again, is a US EPA awarded grant. So, and we are under signed contract, which is a congressionally approved contract. So those are I think the facts that folks need are this grant was awarded in November. Our contract was signed in December. Our contract includes terms and conditions that are highly protective of the funds for us. We also are, if you're watching the news, you are watching funds get pulled from every service sector out there right now. USDA funding is being pulled, immigration's funding is being pulled, and it's creating a lot of chaos. We have not been left out. So our funds have not been terminated. We currently don't have access to our federal grant, so there's a system, a distribution system where we can submit invoices, and those invoices are then paid through that system. That our grant right now is not available for us to access or submit invoices for distribution. So it's a reimbursement grant. This is another really important piece for folks to understand. So as we're doing the project, as we're hiring staff, as we're working with partners, as we're purchasing supplies that help us get started with the project, we are spending our own money. We're spending local dollars. And those local dollars are under contract to be reimbursed by the federal government. We are not able to submit invoices to get reimbursement right now. That has a giant impact on, again, multiple organizations that we're in collaboration with. Makes it hard to figure out how to carefully move forward. Puts us in a place of spending a lot of time planning and replanning and strategizing on how to move forward on a project that our community really needs. And a project that represents a really big investment in existing, agreed upon, bipartisan collective needs that will invest in Kalamazoo as a whole for all of us. And we are doing a lot of work to try and advocate for those funds to be released. You can help us if you want. There's if you sign up on our e-news list or reach out to myself or Nikki, if you're a UUC member, we can connect you with a sample letter that you can send to our elected officials that will help advocate for our funds to be released. We are in a boat of pushing for those funds to be released and doing a lot of work to do that, including working with advisors and consultants who are helping us figure out what the best strategies are to push for our funds to be released. But they, at the time and since March 7, are frozen. That's my long
I know
answer.
that was a difficult question, but
It's a good one, though. It's important.
But a number of people are really curious about that, and the letters, yes, the letters are very important to write your representative and see and push for the funds to be released. It definitely worthwhile. Sorry, I got tied up there. Let's see. We're a coalition, and we have environmental, we have climate groups, we have some governments involved. But how do we tie together the various different governmental entities so we're all working together?
Yeah.
And that's including all the different townships. You know, we have 26, I think, government entities in Kalamazoo County.
Yeah. So the The idea of that climate sustainability coordinator at the county, Taylor Van Winkle, was to help do some of that work, to think about climate planning like we do the road commission or the drain commission. There's the impacts of the climate don't stop at our city boundaries or our township boundaries, nor our county boundaries. And so staying at the county level helps us focus local, but expanding to the county level helps us connect people across our urban and rural communities and think about the broader system of climate impacts in Kalamazoo. So how are we doing that? Taylor Van Winkle's work at the county, which is in the planning department, is supported by an advisory committee that's called it's called CACJAC. It's the County Advisory for Climate and Justice, is the acronym. And KC3 co-chairs that committee, and that is a collection of folks from all different sectors, agriculture, housing, the built environment, transportation, that have come together and will meet. We meet once a month, and we'll meet for that whole 3-year period that's funded for Taylor's position. Part of Taylor's work is to take what we're doing out to the municipalities, and she's also met with local municipal leaders to hear what matters to them, how they feel like climate intersects with their work, and what their biggest concerns or needs are, in hopes to start building a collective plan and collective investment from all those different local governments that can be part of the county work. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned tabling, just sort of as you were wandering through. Can you talk a little bit more about the tabling that does take place, what's available at the tabling, if people see us, what they can learn, and that kind of thing? Yeah,
so again, we table at just about any event that will have us. One of the folks you can find us for sure. One of the places where you can find us for sure this summer is at the Kalamazoo Farmers Market. You also can find us on Saturday at the Nature Center's Earth Day. Plug for Earth Day. So if you want to talk to us, that's step one. You can come find us at a tabling event. What will you find at the table? I'll tell you, we often table with a lot of information that I'm sharing with you now about what the coalition does. There's also opportunities to sign up and get involved in our work. You can also do that by reaching out to us. You can reach out through my contact information is on our website. You can also reach out directly to me. You'll find, so you can sign up to be an affiliate. We are a network of affiliates, and we can share more. You can find more information on our website about what it means to be an affiliate. Very generally, affiliates sign on to that they believe in our mission and support our mission, and then we have a set of guiding principles that we ask you to be involved in. And then what we like to do with affiliates is support the work you're doing and give you opportunities to share anything that you're doing that's related to climate. You can also sign up for our e-news and our Climate Digest. So Tim Tesser is part of our coordinating committee, and Tim Tesser spends some good time and some good research and some good thought into putting together a weekly e-newsletter that is full of great resources and current news about what is happening that's related to climate globally and locally, both. I lean to that. Short on time to really look and try to do my own research. I lean on Tim's e-news digest to find what's happening right now. It's dependable, so you can sign up for that. And then often we table with Citizens Climate Lobby, so you can also learn about Citizens Climate Lobby and their work at the same time.
I'll put in a plug for Tim's newsletter. It's worthwhile signing up to get onto our mailing list just to get that, because if you don't really feel like going through hours after hours of climate news, he has a really nice summary pointing you to what he considers the top articles for the week, basically. And he has multiple sources, and so, you know, he spends a lot of time on it, and it's really a good digest. And so anything else that you want to get in that I'm not asking questions about?
I don't think so. I think get involved, look us up, support us. We are really asking what it looks like to be a stronger community together and build and plan resilience into our future by thinking about climate and also thinking about all of the things that climate will impact and bringing those issues together and bringing people together around it. So be with us.
You do have a couple questions, if you are ready to jump to those, or do you have another one you're working on, Nikki?
No, go for it.
Okay, we had a question from Toby about how are you paying the staff that you've hired already?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are, here's by contract, we are, the federal government is committed to reimbursing any funds that we spend until those funds are until our grant, if our grant is terminated. We think it will not be. So we are actually supported by Kalamazoo County right now. That they are paying invoices, and the EPA will reimburse the county for any funds that are spent up until we hopefully start getting reimbursements.
Toby has a follow-up question about, have others come through with funding since the EPA grant was frozen, other than the county?
That's a good question, that we are working diligently to seek other sources of funding right now. So our EPA grant is not our only source of funding. However, $18.9 million is a giant number to replace. So the work that we're doing is also scalable. So while we work to raise funds, we have plans A, B, and C to be able to, continue to do the broader work that KC3 is doing that is worth and needs support and funding as well, and then B, start with a smaller scale project. And thankfully the project is designed in a way that we can do fewer houses and fewer workforce participants if needed while we are in the roller coaster of the funding situation.
What about Eagle? Is Eagle giving us any money or not at this point?
So Eagle, thanks for bringing up Eagle. So there are some things that I've learned in the process of managing this project. One is shout out to Kalamazoo County is really hustling to try to keep and support this investment in Kalamazoo. And I have endless respect and gratitude for the staff at Kalamazoo County. And then Eagle is another one. So the environment, Great Lakes, and energy is what Eagle stands for, as the state environmental organization. They are meeting with us weekly to help connect us with compliance consultation and legal consultation. And they also Michigan did a really good job of trying to secure funds for Kalamazoo before those community change grants were awarded. They committed to provide a match grant to every awardee, community change grant awardee that was landed for Michigan. And so we will receive some support from Eagle, funding support in addition to the giant amount of consultation support that they're providing as we deal with the federal funding issues.
Regina wants to know what specific energy upgrades that you think you're going to be focusing on as you do this work.
Yeah, good question. So if you are a homeowner in the core neighborhood, there's two qualifying, right now, there's two overall qualifying factors. One is you have to live in one of those core neighborhoods. The core neighborhoods were identified through the Michigan Environmental Justice Screening Tool and the EPA Environmental Justice Screening Tool, that those are highly impacted neighborhoods. And then the second one is that you need to live in and own your home in those neighborhoods. Beyond that, the first step will be to have an energy audit done on your home, and that energy audit will give an overview of anything that could be done to increase the energy efficiency of your home. Anything that lands on that energy audit could be supported by the grant dollars. The grant dollar is limited to $40,000 per home, but it is not limited to only supporting. Those funds can support things like upgraded appliances or insulation or new roof, but also it'll support things that are in the way of energy efficiency upgrades. So if you need new insulation, but it doesn't make any sense to do the new insulation and not replace the electric, if you have knob and tube electric, it can support things like that. So it's pretty broad, but it has to land on an energy audit in order for it to be done.
And how much input will homeowners have? Like if you have like a list of things that could be done to their house, can they say, well, I think I'd like to do the windows and I'll skip the insulation? Will that be kind of a back and forth with the homeowners?
Yes. So the KC3's role in the project actually is to work directly with the homeowners as a case manager. And while we don't have all of those details worked out, we will definitely be paired up with the homeowners with the understanding that they know their home best. They've been living in it. And they will have their own ideas of what needs to happen with it, and we'll have conversations with them about the audit that's done, what needs to happen, what would get the biggest bang for their buck on greenhouse gas reduction. But also, it's really important to us that on the other end of this project, the homeowners have lower energy bills and a healthier living environment that is palpable for them.
So you talked a little bit about how the homeowners will be chosen. That's kind of a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more details about
don't.
what that might look like?
I don't. So that we know that folks are anxious to hear about that, and we will be holding an public informational sessions that you'll be able to find those on our website that people can attend to ask more questions once we have that process set up.
Do you have anything else, Nikki, on your list?
Not on my list, no, not at this point.
All right, so my question was about, I love that the work that you're doing to help specific things in Kalamazoo that needs to be done, but climate change seems like such a big, huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me wondering, are there other climate coalitions operating in other states, and is there any communications between you on a larger level about larger action that we can take?
Yes. So one of our, I'd say the founder of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition transitioned from, she didn't leave us. She still works with us on a regular basis. She's our board chair, Denise Keel. I said her name earlier. Took a position as the executive director of the Michigan Climate Action Network. And their role is to do exactly that. They have built a network across Michigan of folks who are doing climate work, and they are creating new support for climate work across the state, building relationships, and sharing action, sharing work, sharing thoughts, sharing resources with organizations that are doing climate work and people who are doing climate work across the state. And also being a driver of climate action and advocacy for all of us. So I also sit on a steering committee with MyCan to connect that work at the state level back to KC3 and to connect what KC3 is doing to state level work so that any and everything that's happening in the state is the goal, can be shared, copied, supported, like the Costco model of what's the best idea for climate work across the state. And then there are many, I will not try to name them, many smaller grassroots climate orgs all across Michigan and across across the country. And with very similar, I will name very similar projects to what we're doing actually right now. And I think there are actually 6 total community change grant awardees across Michigan, which equals out to $88 million worth of money that is right now frozen, but will be invested in Michigan in climate preparedness work in our state. And many of those projects identified the same issues and are taking a very similar approach to supporting climate resiliency, in part because housing is one of those like giant bridge issues that can have a high impact on climate, but can also have a high impact on communities.
Are there any other questions from folks on Zoom or in the audience here? Will homeowners be trained to maintain their energy upgrades? Is that part of the vision?
That is a good question. That is not something that we have talked about yet, but I love the idea. And while we've talked about providing resources, we have not talked about providing training for homeowners. That's something that could definitely fit into the education that happens in those community resiliency hubs.
And that might be something that we can look into, because Community Homeworks
Yes,
has
thank you.
different educational
Mhm.
courses. And so it's very possible that they would be willing to put in, specifically for people who have gotten these upgrades.
Yes, and I should say Community Homeworks already does that work, but specifically around the upgrades that we're doing or around climate change, I'm not sure. So I think that's a great idea, Nikki. Mhm.
Yeah, we'll take any and all ideas that we can, start working on too, if anybody has some ideas.
Darby asks, what's your greatest volunteer need at present?
Ooh. We could use volunteers. That was a couple of them. So we could use volunteers, one, to support our tabling events. We would love. So come learn about us and put in some time talking about us in the community. I think we could also use volunteers to help with some of the letter writing campaigns and advocacy that we're doing right now. And at some point soon, we'll need volunteers to do things like put together packets for our homeowners, or help support set up for our Resiliency Hub events and that kind of thing. So we have ongoing volunteer needs, and you can check in with us in any of our Fridays for Future education sessions. There's always a period where we can have little conversations at the end of our presentations. And or come to our website or reach out to us directly.
Yeah, I love the idea of training to table, because right now we're sort of limited that we can only table at one event because of the way the table works. And there are multiple events during the summer on the same day at the same time. And so if we did have a larger cadre of people who could do that, we could reach more people, and we have little trainings that you can look at things and see what you can do in your house type of thing, so we could reach more people. So I really like that suggestion.
Do you have an office, or is this all done remotely?
We have an office. It is a new office. So although I'll say we're not really open to the public yet, but at some point we're thinking about how to do that well. So our office is downtown, right in between Sarkozy's, which we love, and Bimbo's Pizza, which we love. And we chose that location because it is central to all of the neighborhoods right now that we're working with. And the office is really part of the project setup. So all of those staff that we hired to be part of the project, we needed a place to house them and do that work. But we also will be turning that office into a community space. There's room for in-person presentations and room for not giant community gatherings, but small community gatherings. So look forward to some more public opportunities to come and hang out with us at the coalition.
And while we're sort of finalizing, I'd like to put in a plug for tomorrow's Friday for Future because it deals with this. The title is Energy Efficiency for Electrification, Why and How. And it's going to be done by Will Gallmeyer from Green Projects in Grand Rapids. So anybody who's interested, you can get the Zoom link, I believe, online on our website. Mm-hmm. And it does tie into this topic of energy efficiency.
That's a good plug. And again, that's www.kalamazoocrisis.org.
I did drop the website into the chat
Thank
for the
you.
people who are online. And I'm trying to find the slide for Fridays for the Future, and I'll share that at the end too.
Thank you, thank you.
Are there any other questions? So this project is taking up a lot of bandwidth for KCCC. What ways are you kind of brainstorming the next thing?
Yeah. I'll be honest. We can't do all things at the same time. So this, it's January. We've been working on this project for 3 months. So the planning period of the project was almost a year long, but we've been in the throes of setup for this project for 3 months. That's not a whole lot of time. So I will say the attention I'm paying, most of my time is consumed by getting that set up. Now that we have staff, we'll start to transition into the bigger picture of KC3. That said, we are still consistently supporting the education series. This is the first time we've had paid staff. Paid staff, I used to say this in my nature center work, if we're not paying the staff to do the work we're trying to have done, then the work's not going to get done in the way that we want it to get done. So now that we have paid staff, we've got folks who are dedicated to, like, our volunteers did a great job, but our group of volunteers are a group of volunteers who are doing so much work in our community in many, many ways as part of KC3, but also in a lot of other areas. So a group of staff is going to make a giant leap for KC3 in general. And we have started having conversations about what else and what's next and what is possible now that we have a team. And that feels pretty stinking positive, you guys, to have a team of people who are working in our little community that is mighty and has a lot of assets to contribute to something pretty positive around climate resiliency building in our community. And I'm looking forward to taking what we did with this current project, which in my mind said, how does climate relate to something the community needs right now, and applying that to other things, like food security is one that we have talked quite a bit about. Part of that will be, we will continue to collaborate with Kalamazoo County, and we hope to drive our next steps during this current project and also beyond this current project alongside that plan, because that plan, again, is really well seated. It's already being receiving input from community members, is informed by community members, and the input that we are asking for will continue to grow and inform that plan. So we will align our work with that and follow this same model of what does the community need and how do we look at that from a climate perspective and do a good job with it.
Yeah, we had a tornado.
Yes, we did.
Portage,
Mm-hmm.
And discovered that we don't have a lot of resiliency in this community in
Yeah.
places that we think of as more affluent. And so is there any thoughts about expanding those resiliency hubs into other pockets of poverty in the county?
I would say everything that we're doing right now is a first step in what we hope to be doing more of. So yes, and I don't want to end on this note, but I learned on Tuesday. I participated in another panel that was for high school students, where there was a keynote speaker who is, I shouldn't have brought this up because I'm not going to remember her name, but she's a weather person, and she shared the statistic that in the number of tornadoes that we are experiencing here, that we've experienced here in Southwest Michigan, have doubled in the last 2 decades, I think was the. So that Portage tornado is part of the increased impacts we're seeing from climate change, and it's hopefully, a dreadful wake-up call for us to pay more attention and think more about how we're building back. There's a thing that just came out, I think it was this morning, as time is running into itself, but there's the county is providing relief dollars to local residents who are impacted by the tornado. And one of the questions I asked myself is like, what could KC3 be doing to incentivize those relief dollars to help support, like if we're going to invest money in helping fix damage from the tornado, how could we do it in a way that builds better resilience for that home for the that can withstand future disasters better? Those kinds of questions we are asking all the time.
At this point, we're a 501c3, and I would like to see us get into getting into legislation about topics so that we can get rid of the fossil fuels, and we can do that as a 501c3 as long as we stay on topic. And that I was talking to Jenny about that just recently, about how can we start maybe doing something along those lines of getting laws passed that sort of force resilience.
So we do have another question about the project, and it has to do with the timeline. Do you have any feeling about when you'll be ready to take those first people and get them energy audits and get them started?
So the answer to that is murky because the amount of dollars that the county or any of us can continue to support is not going to be unending. It's not limitless. So as we move forward, the answer to that will be dependent on the release of federal funds. The answer to that right now is dependent on the release of federal funds. We have to move very carefully and are already making different decisions about what we can and can't do. The project is already slowed down. Jobs are already at risk because of the federal funding issues. So we originally, the plan was to try and achieve upgrades to 50 homes this year. It's 300 total, but we knew the first year would be a lot of focus on setup. And we have not changed that goal yet. But as we look to a summer startup is our goal, we're really going to need to have money flowing from the federal government or somewhere else before we can really start work on actual homes. So back to my ask for help. There are community. What we know is that your voices do have an influence on the collective access to funds, the collective change, and we will benefit from a community that understands how big of an investment, how big of an impact this project could have right here in Kalamazoo. We will benefit from your voices going to your local government officials, going to state government officials and beyond. So speak for us, sign on to our letters, send your own letters, not just for the work that we're doing, but there's also funding for local food issues is being threatened, funding for, go out there and look at what's going on. We need voices lifted right now. We need people showing up. And we also need people coming together and thinking of creative ways to continue to do the work we're trying to do right here at home together and build a more secure system locally. Thank you for that question. And we do understand that the desire to learn what the process is for accessing funds is out there, and we'll get it out there as soon as we can.
It speaks to how amazing this program is and how it's really going to impact people's lives. So kudos to KCCC for all the work that you've done on it.
Thank you.
This is a great opportunity, folks. You got a question, drop it in the chat for Jenny Doezema. A wealth of knowledge. Oh, we got another one here. Just amazing. Came in the chat. So how did you celebrate Earth Day?
I celebrated Earth Day actually at the My Healthy Climate conference in Detroit. And also, I spoke to a group of young folks in the morning. I mentioned that earlier. So some of you know Joan Hawkesworth is part of the Hope for Creation group. She put together with a current teacher that I worked with at the Nature Center. They and other folks. I don't know who all helped put it together, but KRISA put on a climate careers event. That's where the weather person spoke, and high school students all came together to think about if they're interested in climate, if they want to do something related to climate, how do they do that, and how do they connect it to whatever passion or heart-driven work they want to do in their lives. That was a really lovely event to be part of, and so I spoke to that group of high school students in the morning. I think there were over 70 students there. And then they went on, I went off to the conference and they went on to learn from a lot of local leaders who are doing climate work in Kalamazoo and get to have small group discussions with them. I think young folks, I think supporting young folks and helping provide pathways for young people to do the work and action that they believe needs to happen in our world is one of the best ways that we can do our work right now. We have a generation that's wise and passionate about what they want to see in their future, and I think it's adults' responsibility to support them in providing laying down the road for them to be able to do that work. So that feels like an important way for me to spend Earth Day. And then at the My Healthy Climate Conference is a place where folks from all over the state are coming together to think about how we're supporting the Michigan My Healthy Climate Plan. And I spoke on a panel yesterday that shared more about this project with the statewide partners to think about how to do this kind of work in their own community. So spreading the work to young people, spreading the work to old people, and celebrating, we all have things we want to see happen differently, and there's critiques and support for any plan, any legislation, any decision that's happening at the state level or in local government. But I do want to say that our dear state of Michigan hustled to keep a lot of money to do sustainability and environmental justice with a strong focus on justice work in Michigan, and to support climate planning in our state in a way that is unique across the country. So that felt good to be part of.
So I have a question. Have you found an answer to what motivates people to protect the environment?
Oh, I love that question. Have I found an answer? My short answer is no. My long answer is, I think one of the things that the nature connected movement, which I don't know if climate is a nature connected, climate is touches every part of our lives. So this feels like it feels like a step away from that. It's much bigger than that. But certainly related, because climate is not just about people. It's about this whole ecosystem of a thriving world that supports our lives. I think that I'm speaking, you asked me a big question. I'm speaking off the cuff here. I'm going to think about it while I'm talking. Sometimes that goes well, y'all. I think that the nature movement has it's othered itself into this, like, there is a nature thing, there's a sustainability thing, there's an outdoor thing, and I think it's been, for whatever reason or however the journey got us to where we are now, it feels like it's a thing that's optional. It feels like it's this thing over here that, like, some people are nature people, some people are outdoors people, and however we got here, I think that's the wrong place for us to be. I think the right place for us to be is to come back into this center where we understand that our natural world is, we are part of our natural world. Humans are part of our natural world. We are part of the ecology. Nature is us, and we are nature. And I think the way that we do that is by, instead of othering it, we need to be connecting with people's real lives and talking about where nature hits home, and also having those experiences with all people in all places where we get to feel like there's the nature that supports our healthy lives. Nature is a thriving ecosystem is necessary for our survival. And there's that piece of it that we want to connect people to nature for. But there's also the natural world, for the natural world being itself, that I think is really important for us to get out there and be out there and remember what it's like to be a human outside of the built environment. I think having those experiences, I think I'll bring that answer with me from my background and the background of my work. Having experiences where you can get lost in nature and be surrounded by nothing that feels like it's part of the built environment helps people remember both how important nature is to them and also how important nature is for nature. And I hope motivates people to want to protect it.
How does that fit into the inner city? When people,
Say more about the aspect, yeah.
and people who never see nature.
I don't know if there's people who never see nature.
Oh,
I think
I can name a number of New
Well,
Yorkers who've never been outside of that. Yes,
I think that nature. So I grew up in the north side of Kalamazoo, and while I did grow up in a family that went camping and fishing and spent a lot of time outside, I also spent a lot of time outside in my neighborhood. Most of the time I spent outside was in my neighborhood. I played at the dead end of my street that was still today has no dumping signs that are wholly ignored at the dead end it's full of piles of garbage. When I was a kid, it was full of piles of garbage. There's a billboard at the end of the street. It's an abandoned lot. There's a lot of dilapidated houses around where I grew up. I lived there birth to 18. And I will tell you also that there was a deep connection to nature. I rode my bike there. I climbed trees. I also climbed the billboard. There's a stream that runs through the dead end of my road where we used to watch frogs jumping around in the stream. Those places still exist. And I think that you're asking, how do you connect people that don't get to see the bigger nature spaces?
Or even the little ones that you're describing. Like if you go to the south side of Chicago, you go into the inner works of Manhattan, You go into some of the huge cities around the world, Shanghai,
Mhm.
you know, people don't see anything that would, they might have a pocket park, but it's difficult to call that nature.
Yeah.
And they certainly wouldn't be able to get lost in it. And so that's, how do you...
That's a really big question, Nikki.
Right.
I don't have a solution for that. But I will tell you, I think one of the answers, and I think I don't think, there are people who are working on this locally right now. I think one of the answers is bringing more natural spaces into our urban spaces. I think that's a giant part of the picture. And I think making safer places for, like, I don't think the world is the same as it was when I was a kid. Kids don't run around the block in the way that I did when I was a kid. So I think safer communities open up more opportunities for kids to do that. I also think I don't know if I should say all these things on a Zoom call, but I also think our education, like, we need to find ways to support schools in a way that they can go on more field trips, that they can take kids outside into natural spaces, that teachers have more time to do provide more meaningful experiences, that partners, that local community groups like the Nature Center does this, but also Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, there's lots of them, collaborate with schools to get kids outside. I think we're straying away from climate resilience, but I think that's related. I think that's related in big ways. I think getting kids outside and helping us come back home to what our connection to the natural world is.
If you don't see the world except
grows
as a
people.
city,
Mhm.
you're never going to really want to get rid of climate change. Because so much of climate change is affecting the outside world. It's the nature of it. And, in the city, to a large extent, you feel protected.
I don't know if that's true, Nikki. I think that, our almost 90-degree day at the end of April, I think, is felt in the cities. I think the Portage tornado is felt in the cities. I think we're feeling a lot of climate impacts in the cities. I don't know. I think a connection to nature requires being close to nature. I think also a connection to nature helps people live a more quality, thriving life. But I definitely think you can live in a city all your life and feel and care about the climate right now. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions online before we wrap things up here?
These kind of discussions are actually very important to being able to figure out what we should be doing, where we should be doing things, or, not just us in Kalamazoo, but everywhere. In India, where they're already dying because of the heat, and it's only March. That was back in March, which is not their hottest season. And climate change is not a local issue, and we don't necessarily always think of what's happening around the world. And so getting into the kinds of discussion you just saw the two of us having is very important to broaden your horizons and to think about new things. Also, reading is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, and watching documentaries or even just movies. A lot of movies are showing the effects of climate change, even if it's unknowingly. So, talk to people.
Talk to people. I think you're right, Nikki. I think I think one of the big assets that the coalition has is a lot of folks with different perspectives that are willing to get together and grapple through them to figure out which direction to go together. I think I benefit at the coalition. I think the community benefits from We have a lot of organizations and a lot of people in Kalamazoo that are really driven to keep working to make Kalamazoo better, and having the hard conversations about what the right way to do the work is part of that. Many minds makes smarter work.
And that's really how we build climate
Mhm.
resiliency.
Yes, it is.
Together.
Yes, yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for being here this evening and for a wonderful conversation. And we really wish you all the best as you move forward with this project to impact people in Kalamazoo County to have a more brighter future as far as climate resilience goes.